welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 76. And the title of this episode is The Calm Before the Economic Collapse. And today it looks like the markets are up, gold is up, and I see that gold is over $1,400. And I'm going to take a guess, or I'm going to make a prediction that tomorrow that gold is slammed down and is brought below 1,400, and let's see if that holds true. And we see out in Asia, the Nikkei was down another 737 points, and we can see the volatile market over there, and it seems like every time something happens, people kind of blame it on something else, or this is why it's happening. And we're seeing this quite often now in Japan, and a lot of the analysts are saying that Japan is teetering, and once it topples, that is going to send ripples throughout Europe and then into America. So, and we're seeing this, every day. It's up, then it's down, but, it's continually falling. It's not making the gains. It's continually going down and down and down. So, but here in America, they are propping up the markets with the plunge protection team and the high-frequency traders, and they can keep this market going. So there was an interesting article, Is This Why Social Unrest in Europe Has Been Subdued? And they gave a couple of charts here. And if you look in Spain, the unemployment benefits, the max is 24 months. Portugal, it's 25 months. In Greece, it's 12 months. And, when you extend, just like they did here in America, when you extend unemployment and you continually give benefits, it skews a lot of numbers. These people aren't, employed, and they're not complaining because they are receiving some type of benefit to get through the tough times. But again, these people who are receiving unemployment, when it runs out, they consider them as just dropping off and not counting them as looking for employment. And this is where we get this strange unemployment numbers, and this is why when people start to look again, they have to change the calculation, because all of it wouldn't make sense of why the market's going up, why the economy's strong, but why do we have all these people looking now? So basically, when they drop off, we don't have to count them. And what's funny, even like when the real estate market crashed, all the realtors, there were thousands upon thousands of realtors, but they were never considered employed because they are contract workers. So they don't count. But all those people who were bringing in incomes all of a sudden came to a screeching halt. Just think of how many realtors got out of the market and started looking for a different job, or couldn't find another job, and were still trying to make it as a realtor, but couldn't sell anything at that point. Okay, let's move on here. Keeping the euro afloat at all costs behind catastrophic EU unemployment. Now, we know the unemployment is quite high in the European nations. And basically, the central banks and the governments tell us that the economy is getting better and everything's okay. But, with everyone out of work, especially across the European nations and in America, how can they say that things are getting better? Because if people aren't working, they're not spending. If they're not spending, how are these corporations making profits, or retail stores making profits? And how are they making it? Well, they're not, because back in January, February, and if you look at my episodes around that time, I did a report on the amount of retail stores that were closing, and I went down a list of Radio Shack was closing 200 or so stores, Best Buy was closing, JCPenney was closing, and the only reason these stores close up shop and get rid of the employees is because they're not making sales. So let's use some common sense here. People aren't working, or they have reduced salaries. They don't have that discretionary fund monies to spend on frivolous things, so they don't go shopping in these stores. Since the people aren't shopping, buying, 3 more TVs or more electronics, the stores aren't making money. And if the stores aren't making money, they can't keep them open. So now you're seeing the ripple effect of everyone partially employed, or people who are fully employed but making half of what they're making, or maybe making 3/4 of what they were making, and they're not going out to shop. And we're seeing this, and the retail side of it is painting the picture and letting us know how the economy is really doing. And it's funny that the government numbers, like to include gasoline sales, and they always tell us, if you ever just listen to them, retail sales have gone up. And every time they say that, gasoline prices have gone up. But when gasoline prices go down, they always let you know the reason why retail has gone down is because gas prices have fallen. But when gas prices go up, they never tell you it's because of the gas prices. They just leave that part off. They just let you know that the retail sales are up, and they like to leave things out in their reports, and that's how they get. And people read this, and they let you know, like, no, I saw in the news. And it was funny because my boss was telling me how great everything is, and this was back in like February, how everything is, the economy's looking good, and things like that. And I said, oh really? Then why are all these retail stores closing their businesses? And he goes, what are you talking about? And I forwarded him, it was a USA Today article that listed all the stores that were closing. And he goes, holy crap, I didn't realize this. But when you listen to the news and you just listen to the surface crap, it sounds fabulous and great. And this is what we're seeing here today. If you listen to the surface junk that they tell you, and of course they leave off everything else, everything always seems great. Now, let's move on here. Cyprus. Bank deposits plunge by most ever during capital controls. Now, is anyone really surprised that bank deposits plunged? I mean, really, who would keep their money in the bank, even with capital controls? I'd be there every day taking the maximum amount that I can. Why would I leave it in there? So they can keep capital controls for 5 months. Every day I'd be taking out 300 a day, 300 a day, 300, and that's what everyone is doing. They're removing their funds. And this is why, can you imagine if they removed the capital controls completely? Why would you keep your money in the bank? Now, there was a report that there were like mini bank runs in Europe because of what happened in Cyprus, but the mainstream media really didn't talk about that, and no one really did. But there was an article that said there were mini bank runs throughout Europe when this Cyprus thing happened. And basically, when they saw the outflows, they saw about 6.4 billion being withdrawn from the banks, and that's about 10% of its entire deposit base in 1 month, and that's what they saw being taken out. Now, it's funny, the dollar has been going down, gold now has been going up, and why? The dollar is just a piece of paper with ink on it. It has no value whatsoever. If you go back to Lincoln's greenback, is that paper worth anything? Or if you go back to the Confederate money, is that money worth anything? And I'm not talking about historical value. If you just had a $20 bill from back during that period, it is worth nothing because no one believes in it. Gold has been around for thousands upon thousands of years. And if you notice, everything always goes back to gold and silver. Even though the Federal Reserve and other mainstream news outlets tell you that gold is not money, if it wasn't, and they truly believe that, they would not hold it. Banks would not hold it. Countries would not hold it. Federal Reserve would not hold it. They would not buy it. They would not have it at all. Gold and silver, they are the insurance policy against paper, because they know when paper collapses, it's worth nothing. But if you have gold and silver, it's worth something. Think about that. Right now, the student loan delinquency rate in the United States has hit a brand new high. 37 million Americans currently have outstanding student loans, and the delinquency rate on those student loans has now reached a level never seen before. Gee, now, is this really that hard to figure out? If we have among the youth an unemployment rate of 50%, how the hell are these students going to repay their loans or even make payments on their loans if they cannot find a job? And those students who have found a job those jobs, you don't even need a college degree to work there. Plus, I would say almost 100% of these kids, let's say 95% of these kids, are working at these low-paid jobs and living at home and still can't make the payments on their loans. I have my wife's aunt, her son is graduating college, and he has been looking and looking and looking and cannot find a job right now. So he's working at this place as a part-time job, but he has student loans. And he's hoping that this summer that something comes up, but he said there is like nothing for him to get. And when he does go on an interview there's hundreds upon hundreds of people applying for the same exact job. But the unemployment is very, very low today, and the economy is getting stronger, and you can tell that everything is getting better because we have, the student loan delinquency rate is going up and unemployment is going down, so this makes perfect sense. Oh, and don't forget, the stock market's going up, so this all makes perfect sense. Now, there was an article that said the dollar could be in danger as the world's currency. Though the U.S. dollar continues to reign as the foreign reserve currency of choice, a new International Monetary Fund analysis shows that the currency has slumped to a 15-year low, heightened concerns that it may lose that status. Well, it will lose that status because as more and more countries stop trading in the U.S. dollar, it means that the U.S. dollar will no longer be the reserve currency because we have China trading with Australia. I think New Zealand's doing it. Iran, Syria, Russia, Brazil, India. I mean, we're looking. Many nations are starting to do this, and they're getting away from the dollar, and that's why we're trying to keep the petrodollar or the U.S. dollar as reserve currency, and the only way to do that is by force. That's why we're in the Middle East. That's why we're trying to keep control around the world, because they realize that we are going to lose this status. And this article goes on to say the rating agencies are already arguing that the government's debt may be too highly rated. Plus, the United States Congress, in both its houses as well as the president, are demonstrating a total lack of fiscal credibility. Now, really, with a debt of 17 trillion, are we really surprised that there's a problem here? I mean, when President Obama took office, the debt back then was 10 trillion, and now we're about to hit 17 trillion. So, I mean, really, I mean, I don't, I don't know why everyone's like, oh yeah, this debt thing might be a problem. It is a problem. When your debt's 17 trillion, and you went from 10 to 17 from 2008 till now, I mean, what is that? 5 years? There's a problem. A huge problem. I mean, why don't we just admit it? But no one does. Everyone just plays it off like, no, 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 it's fine. It's okay. Even with their sequester, the debt continually rises. So, really, they're still spending. It hasn't stopped. Now, we hear that the housing market, and I think it was yesterday, is recovering. People are buying even when renting is a far better deal. Now, the funny thing is, I think it was yesterday, you know, all the days are blending in for me here, that these huge investment firms were buying up and pumping up the real estate market. And so was Ben Bernanke with buying all the toxic assets at 40 or 45 billion a month. Banks are keeping foreclosed homes longer than 400 days across the entire nation. Now, basically, this is the average time for a foreclosed property to sell, just hit a record at nearly 400 days across the entire nation. So they're holding this inventory back, because if they sell it, they're going to take half or a lot less of what, you know, these houses were mortgaged at. So, you know, they're keeping them on the books and waiting and waiting and waiting for this real estate market to be pumped up. Now, it says here, in short, Zillow, per Zillow, 44% of all mortgage homeowners, the core of the U.S. housing demand and supply, are zombies. 60% when including those lacking sufficient income or credit needed for a loan. As a result, the nation's maximum potential demand profile has been gutted. Now, everyone, I mean, I see it on Market Watch and I see it on other news stations, and let me just bring that up here. I mean, there's a headline: they're buying even where renting is a far better deal. They are really pushing this housing market, and they're trying to create this huge demand so they can make the prices rise, so the banks can get these houses off their books, and they're creating another bubble. And people, so I said, you know, people are like, no, it's not another bubble. The housing market's recovering. No, it's not. Let's go back. Let's go back in time here, and go back to 2005, 2006, and let's see what the newspapers and everyone was saying back then, even Ben Bernanke here. What was he saying? And this is from the Washington Post. Bernanke: there's no housing bubble to go bust. This was in the end of the year of 2006, going into 2007. Ben S. Bernanke does not think the national housing boom is a bubble that is about to burst. He indicated to Congress last week, just a few days before President Bush nominated him to become the next chairman of the Federal Reserve. Yeah, nice choice there. So basically, he was letting everyone know real estate is no way in a bubble. You're all being ridiculous. And guess what happened? It was in the bubble. So let's go here. Now, this newspaper, let's see what this one is. This is from CNN. the money section in CNN. Real estate. Busts don't follow booms. So a new report shows modest connection, and this is not from now. This is back in 2005, 2006, 2007. A new report shows modest connection between housing booms and later busts. The FDIC report points out that busts that have followed booms have tended to be rather mild, more stagnation than catastrophic. No housing bust that followed a boom during the past 25 years exceeded 20% average price drop. Well, they were right on the money with that one. What happened in 2008 and 2009? Wow, they let me tell you, this news, they really know what they're talking about. Furthermore, the correlation between boom and bust seems weak. The FDIC reports in just 9 of 54 unique boom episodes prior to 1998 did a bust subsequently occur within a 5-year window. Really? Wow. So basically, who do you really want to believe? So all the newspapers now are telling you, and you can just tell it's a bubble. Just look at it. They are pushing and pushing people to get into the housing market. They want people to get in because this is the huge pump and dump. And it's funny because when you go back, and there's many other articles just like this. I mean, it's when you read them, and of course, looking back now, you're like, oh yeah. But back then, it seems so convincing. But then if you looked at alternative media people, like, or just other people, like Peter Schiff, Mark Farber, Charles, they were all being laughed at. They were the ones saying there's a housing bubble. Ben Bernanke saying there was no housing bubble. The mainstream media was telling you to buy. It's safe. It's a great investment. Do it. The same thing is happening now. Those same people are telling you there's a housing bubble. There's a stock market bubble. There's a treasury bubble. Ben Bernanke is telling you there is no stock market bubble. There is no treasury bond bubble. And there is no housing bubble at all. The mainstream media telling you the same thing. So, gee, who has the better track record? Well, I'm going to go with those people who predicted the first bubble, and it came true. This is the end of part 1 of episode 76. Tomorrow, I'm going to continue with part 2 of episode 76. I am going out of town and I'll be on the road. So what I did was I split this episode up into 2, and you will hear the second half tomorrow. On Saturday, there will be no news brief because I will still be on the road, and but I will try to update the site with Sentinel alerts as much as I can. Thank you.